Hello again everybody, and welcome to Mission 2 of the Red Flag 16-2 campaign in the A-10C Warthog. So this is the local area checkout, and we're going to use this mission to become familiar with the routing for getting up north into the play area. We're going to look at some landmarks that we'll be using to navigate and to stay out of restricted airspace. And since it's been a while since I've really used the A-10, I'm going to use it to familiarize myself again with some aircraft systems. So I'm recording the briefing this time after the fact. I've already flown the mission, so I'll just give the overview here. I can confirm that we don't engage the enemy on this mission on the ground or in the air. The red aircraft is going to stay across the FIA, and we're just going to fly the route. So mission 3, the next mission, is where that sort of thing will start to get going. But just like I said for the mission 2 of the F-15 campaign, flying this one and becoming familiar with the route, especially if you're not 100% familiar with the Nevada Test and Training Range terrain already, is absolutely essential. So that's why this is here, just to make sure that you're not figuring stuff out as you go on that first combat mission. But in either case, let me run through the briefing real quick and then we'll get into the cockpit and get on the taxi. So like I said, this is just all about getting to know the airspace, and today we're going to stay below 15,000 feet so that we don't clog up the higher airspace for any of the other cap aircraft on station. And we have Chevy 1 and Chevy 2 F-15 flights orbiting up here on our side of the FIBA, forward edge of the battle area, so in other words over our territory. And then we're also going to have flights coming in and recovering at Nella. So we have Dodge flight of F-15Es coming in from the northeast and then transiting south for recovery, and then we have Uzi flight, and these are going to be Tornadoes, also making the transit down the side of the corridor and recovering at Nellis. So once we get started, I'm going to lead the second element of a 4-ship of A-10. So I'm going to taxi out behind 2 other aircraft. We're going to fly a visual trail formation on the lead element as they call out landmarks and describe the area to us. And as we go, we're also going to get the occasional radio call referencing Bullseye. And Bullseye in this case is going to be out here over Mount Helen on the other side of the FIBA out here in Redland. So looking at some more specifics, Intel does report Sukhoi 27s and MiG-29 caps, and we can see those depicted right here, a southern and a northern combat air patrol, but I don't expect these to come across, and the ROE for them is not to fire unless fired upon, and those are our rules of engagement as well. So as long as we stay on our side of the FIBA as planned, we don't have to worry about air defenses or these aircraft at all. But we do have a restriction as far as altitude over the farm. So we see the farms depicted right here at Rachel, Nevada, and the red highlight over this area depicting a restriction to altitude, and we're going to stay above 12,000 feet MSL, and we're still going to be awaiting arrival of our AWACS aircraft. So all the information we're going to have on enemy aircraft locations are what we can get from here in the briefing and what we hear called out during flight in real time. Surface-to-air missile threats expected to be SA-19, SA-10, SA-15, and SA-11, but again, as long as we fly this as briefed and stay on our side of the FIBA, those are not going to be a threat. So just to back off and go to the map briefly, okay, we're starting at Nellis Air Force Base down to the south. We take off on runway 03 to steer point 1. We make a left-hand turn past the speedway to a right-hand turn up to steer point 3, we come up to steer point 4 at Texas Lake, and this is where during the full up missions we're going to hold out here in the Caliente Bravo airspace, but we're just going to make a left-hand turn at Student Gap, fly north of the container. This is the restricted airspace around Groom Lake, and it's a mission fail if we go south of the red restricted area lines that we see. But we are going to go to No Name Mountain, take a right, skirt the edge of the farms, have a look out there visually over the FIBA, and then take another right at steer point 9 up to, it's depicted here as Texas Lake, but unless I'm very much mistaken, the only Texas Lake is really down here at steer point 4. This is the Coal Valley Dry Lake, and then a right-hand turn and just a recovery back to Nellis. So like I said, the first combat mission is going to be mission 3, but yeah, feel free to stick around if you want to follow me around on this. And going to the data card, I'm going to be Hog 2. I'm going to be following the 2-ship first element, call sign Hog 1. So it's a 15:05 takeoff, and this mission has it starting, it's a hot start on the ramp with the engines already running. Just for timing purposes, the rest of the missions from here on out will be cold starts on the ramp. And with that, I'll pick things up again, engines running at the A-10 Lola at Nellis.
Good afternoon, Hogs. Welcome to the Red Bus Tour at the Red Flag Range. I was here last year, so I have the joy of being your tour guide. After departure, you'll head west, then north of the Saitek corridor to the Red Flag Range, and then we'll do a clockwise route over the blue side of the range, where I'll call out landmarks that we'll use often during exercise. I'll only hit the active runway, which is 25 miles.
Okay, gotcha. So just following, I'm assuming this 2-ship that's taxiing right now are the guys that we're supposed to follow out. they're the only, yeah, everything else is just static aircraft. So I'm going to follow these guys on out and go ahead and call on VHF AM, Nellis, and request taxi. Actually, I need to go to 125. And now Nellis request taxi. And I'll follow these guys out in either case. I've got two right back there in back of me.
When any aircraft has live organs, you'll step to the conventional ammunition loading area, or CALA. The CALA's on the south side of Nellis, and has a direct route to ammunition bunkers. The B part of the CALA is for A-10s only, and is for loading forged fire munitions like the gun and Mavericks.
Okay, yeah, very cool. Yep, just like you said, it's the A-10 loading area, and the aircraft would be, I guess, facing into the burn, but yeah, I do like this better just from the aesthetic point of view, not staring into dirt, and it's a lot easier to taxi out in this direction as well. Okay, so we'll come on around here, and CALA, Combat Aircraft or Conventional Ammunition Loading Area, it's the Navy term for, I guess, what in the Air Force would be called a LOLA, or technically a CAPA, Combat Aircraft Parking Area. But yeah, like I say all the time, acronyms don't matter, and especially at a red flag, you're just dealing with so many other organizations and agencies, and that's the other point of the red flag, is to work with people that you don't normally work with and just get used to other people's way of doing things and other people's, acronyms. That's a big part of what a red flag is.
To the left of us are the calorie methods. During the exercise, all aircraft loaded with live weapons get prepped here. During time, step to your aircraft here.
Yeah, there you go. We can see the revetments out to the left, just basically earth-filled steel bins that are just sort of capped with concrete, and the earth fill in the bins is there to prevent simultaneous detonation of aircraft adjacent to each other in case of a fire or just a big-time accident. So we have, quite a few out here. You can fit a lot of aircraft out here. You'll hear this referred to as the golf ramp quite often, or just the LOLA, as long as everybody knows what you're talking about. And we have some F-15s out here. Looks like these guys have started up and are getting ready to taxi. And the last two spots down here, spots 1 and 2, are set aside for recovery of aircraft with hung munitions. So you wouldn't ever replace an aircraft here if you were a mission designer. You would just leave these two open. And then if an aircraft does come in with trouble, a hung gun, hung munitions, or anything, they just taxi right in here, face the berm, and the weapons troops try to safe it up. If they can't safe it up, then things are just downloaded right there, and the aircraft goes on its way. And we're going to blow off the aircraft arming, as I finally, just now, got my taxi clearance. Okay, that works. I would pull into the Alpha East EOR right here if I were counting on getting armed up. Okay, once we're airborne, we'll start the tour. So I'm just going to follow these guys out, and they appear to be taxiing to runway 03 left. And as we're taxiing here, I'm just going to run through the before takeoff. Okay, engine instruments check. Flaps set for takeoff. Let's go ahead and put them down to 7 degrees, the intermediate setting. Okay, speed brakes are verified closed. Takeoff trim, let me check that real quick. Okay, green light, good to go. Okay, so CMS is required. I'm going to put that, I need to put that into standby. I wouldn't want to taxi around with that thing armed up, that's for sure. Okay, so TACAN set, I'll disregard that until I'm airborne. Okay, NMSP as desired, oxygen reg, got it. Canopy defog, windshield defog, NIIs, got it. Harness check. Canopy closed and locked, light off, got it. And let's see, ejection seat armed. I am armed, and I've got exterior lights as required. I'll get that once I'm cleaned up. I'll probably just end up either disregarding them or turning them off so I don't have to fiddle with it. Okay, HUD indicated airspeed, got it. MDG's got it. Altimeter set and check. I'll take it as is, and then we go into the lineup check. Okay, so that works. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to request takeoff. And go straight into a rolling takeoff here. Okay, so flight instruments. Okay, anti-skid, pitot. And yeah, pitot heat is on. And let's see here, APU is off. Throttle's 90%. Engines, got it. Okay, so let's go ahead and throttle on up. Okay, gotcha. So per the lineup card, I was looking for a rotation speed, I think, of 135. Although that sounds a little bit low now that I think about it. I'll rotate at about 140 with this full fuel load and a fairly heavy aircraft. And that's a lot of pull I've got going to the right. My goodness. Just correcting with a little bit of left rudder. Well, not a whole lot. It's been worse. Okay, I'll let it go through 140 and rotate for 10 degrees. And airborne, let's go ahead and, boy, that is a heavy aircraft. Let's go ahead and gear up. Heavy aircraft at a relatively high altitude here of, what are we at, about 1,800 feet or so? Okay, gear up. I'm going to go ahead and go flaps up through 170. And there we go. Now let me settle in for my trim and go for the path hold. Autopilot. Just put the nose up here. I'll keep the sort of bore side line right there at about 10 degrees on the climb out. I'll just engage it in path hold right about there. And yeah, I think that's about it. I'm about squared away here. I'm going to go ahead and step up to the next steer point. That's going to be a left-hand turn. And let me see if I can find the flight I'm following. Can't see it visually, but I know they're just there to the left. Okay, sounds good. Let me go ahead and make my left-hand turn. It still can't quite pick these guys out, but I know they're right there. That's just fine. S2 is going to take a little while to get on the taxi, but it'll be able to catch up as we make the little dog leg up here to the left initially, and then to the right, and then to the left again. Okay, there they go. They're just right there in front of me. They barely... Yeah, I can barely see them out there. Okay, that'll work. Now, let me go ahead and set up just a little bit to the right. I'll just put my velocity vector on the steer point marker and engage the autopilot in path hold mode. That's one way to do it, at least. Let me see if I can check on 2. Where are you at in the world right now? Okay, 2, you appear to be taxiing. Yeah, you're right there at the Alpha East DOR, taxiing across the runway. I can also see those F-15s starting to taxi. Okay, very good.
Northeast, enter the solid corridor to transit to the red flag exercise area. Maintain formation 12,000 feet.
Okay, northwest, or northeast rather, up the Sally corridor. And yeah, I can tell already that a lot has changed with this latest update. We have, I think it is a lot easier now to spot aircraft when they're in close to you. Even with the small setting like I have right here, there is a lot more contrast with these A-10s in close. Not a whole lot, but I believe there is more contrast. I also see that we have the terrain shadowing available now, so now we get the shadows off the terrain based on sun angle, which looks very cool. Okay, so I'm going to roll out right here and just again engage the path hold autopilot mode. I'm not going to be too precise on the following the steer points. I'm just going to follow these A-10s. Now I've also got these backed up on the data link. I didn't even see this 4-ship right here. And this is why, boy, I know that I'm not the only person that spotted this. I'm sure the developers would want to do this, but I wish there was a way to break it out so that, yeah, there's that 4-ship, so that we had the option to have aircraft more visible than ground objects. Like in a case like this in the A-10, where I don't want the enhancement for ground objects, but yeah, I desperately need the enhancement for aircraft, and I was looking up here for these guys. But yeah, still the object enhancement is a lot better than it was. And boy, looking out there sort of northwest up sun like this, yeah, those terrain shadows do make a heck of a difference. This is just cool. Very different from the way, well, not very, I guess, but subtly and different in a good way from what it was. Especially right here, a lot more contrast between the shadowed and the lit areas, which is a cool effect. And checking on 2, using the data link. No sign of 2, although I am kind of puzzled now because I'm not even showing up on the data link.
Off to my left is Hayford Peak.
Yeah, this is Hayford right here, the largest peak, and then Arrow Canyon down here to the right. Somewhere. Yeah, 2's still there. I don't know, something's just sort of acting up with my data link, I guess. Well, it'll give me something to do as we continue on our path here. I'll see if I can troubleshoot. Okay, just looking at the lineup card. Okay, so I was going to be number 1 of Net 5, so my own ID is 01. I'm on 05 for the group. So yeah, 2 should have been on there as well, so that doesn't really explain why I'm not picking up myself here. You know, what I would do is I would probably just recycle power to the GTRS. I think I'll do that. Let me go data link off and then back on. Yeah, there we go. When in doubt, all the time in aircraft, just recycle power. There we go. I've got 2 out there forming up off my wing. Okay. And I'll take the autopilot out as I was drifting a little bit to the left. I think I was just sort of drifting with the crosswind there, and I'll try to reacquire visually these guys in front of me, although I know exactly where they're at. See, I know they're just right out there to my right, and yeah, this data link is just so nice to have. Okay, yeah, in fact, there they are. They're right out there. I can barely make them out. And it looks like we're about to make the left-hand turn, so I'll go ahead and step on up to steer point 4. This will be the Sally Corridor exit at Texas Lake.
We're now entering the southern end of Caliente Alpha. This also marks the southern end of the north-south push line. Off to my west, you can make up the town about.
Yep, very cool. So coming over steer point 4, this is Texas Lake right here. I'll go ahead and step to the next steer point, and that's Student Gap right up here that we see coming up. I was just, since we had a few minutes there, I was playing around with the targeting pod, just using some different techniques to track the aircraft in front of me. If I have a friendly aircraft, and if I have a data link from the aircraft, what I can do is with my TAD as the sensor of interest, go TMS up short and then TMS up long. So TMS up short just to sort of select that target, TMS up long to make that the sensor point of interest, and then with that aircraft as the sensor point of interest, I just need to go shine the hat forward long to slave everything over there, and it just slaves the targeting pod right over to the sensor point of interest. Then I can make my targeting pod sensor of interest, go TMS up short to select that target, and it just snaps into a point track on it. So, you know, that's just one technique, I guess. I was just sort of playing around here, and since that's the aircraft that I'm following out, I'm just going to leave that as the selected target. That's him right there with the wingman just to the right. In fact, I'm going to take my autopilot offline and come around to the right just slightly to get in behind him again, as we're about to make a left-hand turn and get back into the target area that we're still familiar with from the A-15 campaign.
Further east of County Charlie, home of the AWACS and tanker weapons. We'll continue pushing north at 12,000 feet.
Yep, so the holding area out there to the right, we've seen that in action in those A-15 campaigns as well. So from what I remember, the A-10 flights would be holding at a lower altitude block with the F-15s, F-16s, F-18s, and Tornadoes holding in the same area. And then we just all push as one great big package out there into that area. So I see a force ship out there. That's sort of odd to be able to pick them up at that distance. I think it was the lights. I could see like a little halo around them. So yeah, that's very cool. So I guess depending on whether they have their lights on or not, it's easier or harder to find them. I'm just going to leave my lights on. I see no harm in that on just an orientation mission like this. I'll try if I can remember to do it during the mission 3 and 4 of the combat missions and beyond to manage the lighting, but it's not something that I think matters as far as whether the AI reacts to you or not, so I usually just sort of forget all about it and focus on different things, as we have Student Gap right down here below us, and there'll be a left-hand turn coming up very soon, I'm sure.